Welcome to Midlife Schmidlife, the online community for listeners who want to redefine the middle years and recreate their lives lived to the fullest. Join our host, Liz Applegate, as she interviews guests over the age of 40 who are turning their maybe somedays into today and going after their dreams. Let's get the party started.
Hey, Schmidlifers. Welcome to episode 8 of the Midlife Schmidlife podcast. I'm Liz Applegate, your transformative life coach, multi-passionate entrepreneur, and empty nester. Have you ever noticed how I mix those up? I never can keep it straight. Well, we will actually talk a little bit about our identity in this week's episode, and I can't wait for you to hear more about it with my guest, Mary Katherine Johnson. But before we get to the interview, I want to welcome all the new listeners and returning listeners. I am so honored that you tune in to listen to me and my crazy stories, but also to listen to the wonderful, inspirational messages that my guests have to share. And speaking of, my guest last week, Kathy Laudansky of My Side of 50, named Midlife Schmidlife as one of her top 6 podcasts that motivate and inspire. Thank you so much for that, Kathy. Such an honor, especially when you read the other podcasts that she has listed. So be sure and head over to her site at mysideof50.com to read all about those other podcasts. And I will also have a link to that post in the show notes at midlifeschmidlife.com/parent-e-success. I shared my story last week about me doing the Whole30 program, and I got a lot of response from that. A lot of responses were, I don't know how you can do that. I've tried that several times. There's no way I could give up carbs or wine, or the list just went on and on. So I thought that I would share with you how I am able to do this and give you the 3 components that I feel are absolutely necessary to make positive change, whether it has to do with diet or exercise or lifestyle. I really feel that these are the top 3 things that you need to make a positive change in your life. So number 1 is support. I have a friend who is doing the Whole30 program with me. Now, she lives in California and I am in Texas, but we use an app on our phone called Voxer, which works like a walkie-talkie. So we are able to leave one another voice messages back and forth, and it actually works just like a walkie-talkie if you have the app open. If not, you just see that you have a message and you can go and listen to it. This has been really super helpful on times when things are just tough, when we are feeling unmotivated, or maybe some days are just a little rough. So it's nice to know that I can leave her a voice message. She can pick it up whenever she can. And it just helps me to know that we are counting on one another and helping each other through this program. So thank you so much, Julie, because I don't think that I could have done it so far without you. I actually am halfway through. This is my halfway mark. I am on day 15. So support is the number 1. So the second thing that I think you need to make any positive change is nourishment. And in this case, in nourishment, I am speaking of being hydrated. I have realized that I need to drink more water. I don't mind drinking water, but I have a tendency to not do that. Usually, even when the first thing that I drink when I get up is, I used to go right for the coffee. But now I am sure to hydrate my body after being asleep all night long, and I just find it being super helpful. I mentioned last week about this little device I got called the Oola, and it has just been it is just the best little device ever because it helps me all day long remember to take that water, which you would think would be second nature, but for some reason I have a hard time with it. So I am just loving that. The third thing that I feel is absolutely necessary to make a positive change and is so helpful on my Whole30 journey is mindset. And of course, a life coach is going to say that, right? But it is so true. When I started this program, I knew knew there were going to be some days that were going to be hard, but I also knew that I wanted to give myself 30 days to do a little nutritional reset, to find out what works best for my body, and just be open to what came my way. And by that, I mean, I know, as I mentioned before, there have been some days that have been really hard. I've been prepared for that. I knew there were going to be some days that were harder than others, but I also knew that I could get through them. I have the support in place. I have the nourishment around the research of this program and others who have followed it. And it just has been super helpful just knowing that, okay, I'm having a hard time right now. I really could go for a glass of wine, or I really would love to have a slice of pizza. But I know that this is just for 30 days and I can do this. I think just by not making an issue about it, it's kind of been a non-issue, if that makes any sense. Or at least I've tried to make it one. I don't know. You could ask my husband and he may say it's more of an issue than I think it is. But he has been super supportive as well. I just feel that just deciding, like, I'm going to do this. And now that I'm halfway through, I'm so proud of myself for the progress that I've made, for the positive changes I am seeing as far as me sleeping and more energy. I feel that my skin is clearer, and I even feel that I have dropped some weight, which is always a bonus, even though that was not my intention of this program. I was hoping it would be a side effect, but I really was looking more for the positive nutritional benefits that this program could give me. What has been hard, which I have to mention, is if you know me in person, you would know that I've actually been a vegetarian for the past year. And that was something that really has probably been the hardest thing for me, is reintroducing meat back into my diet. I made the decision to become a vegetarian for ethical reasons, and that was an easy lifestyle for me to adopt. But I do admit that I was not feeling well. I was constantly tired, very fatigued. I just was not feeling as good as I wanted to feel. So making this decision and looking at this 30 days as kind of an experiment has been, I don't know, it's been playing on my heart a little bit. So I am looking for farm-raised, ethically raised products to use. But I do have to say that that probably has been one of the hardest things for me to get used to. Again, with my mindset, I am trying to do what I feel is best in my heart, and also what is best for my body, and trying to kind of bridge that gap a little bit. So those are my 3 pillars that I feel are very important to make any type of positive change: support, nourishment, and mindset. So I would love to hear if you are on the Whole30 program, or you are starting the Whole30 program or looking into it and have any questions. Please feel free to let me know, and I am here to support you. As I mentioned before, my guest today is Mary Katherine Johnson. And Mary Katherine is the founder of ParentEntrepreneurSuccess.com. I realize that a lot of my guests are business owners and they have started businesses in their middle years, but this is not a business podcast. Really, this podcast is about sharing their stories. And Mary Katherine's story is no different. One of the first things you are going to realize when you listen to the interview is that she has the most perfect podcast voice, and she is a podcast host as well. And I will have links to this over in the show notes. It's midlifeschmidlife.com/parentesuccess. So let's head on over. I cannot wait for you to meet Mary Katherine Johnson. Hello, everyone. I am here today with my guest, Mary Katherine Johnson. Mary is an author, entrepreneur, and mom of 2 boys. She also has Australian Shepherds and a cat. We already have so much in common, Mary Katherine. She loves to travel, and she just returned from a month in Europe, discovering her ancestry. She loves music. She plays the cello. She fills her days with learning and sharing everything she can about technology and business for the busy parent. Thank you so much for joining Mary Katherine.
Oh, thank you so much for the invitation, Liz. I really can't wait to chat with you. yes, we do have a lot in common.
We do, we do. And so I made mention to Mary Katherine when we first got on the phone that she has the perfect podcasting voice. And it turns out that she actually is a podcast host as well. So I am very honored to have my very first podcast host as a guest.
Oh, wow. I am the one that's honored. Wow, this is fantastic. It's that we podcasters, we just love to hear our own voices, don't we?
We do,
At least
don't
I
we?
do.
I forgot to mention this when I introduced you, but I love this quote that you sent me. It said, "I love this messy, beautiful, scary, weird, incredibly blessed life. Every morning I'm lucky enough to wake up."
It's true. It really, once we realize that every morning we're absolutely lucky to actually wake up, especially with world events.
Right.
We are so lucky that we're actually here. Let's really distill it down to what's vital and really not worry about the rest, because there's always going to be the rest. There's always going to be the messy stuff. It's always going to be crazy feeling. It's so there. Once we just chill, just take a deep breath. You woke up, start from that, and everything's really good.
A good reminder to everyone. And I hope someone's listening to this in the morning so they can start their day off with that positive message.
I have to put that in front of me every day. I have to really remind myself of that every day. I don't care what's going to happen. One of the key things I do every single day is I call it a who, what, and why. And the who is who needs my love, my attention, my patience today. And many times that's me. And most of the
Right.
time it's my kids, or most of the time it's my clients or something like that. But there are times when it's me. And when it's me, that's my cue to go, all right, you're letting this messiness and this craziness get a hold of you too much. Just relax, and then I try and get through the day. If I realize it's me, then that day has to change from that point on, and I do that first thing in the morning for that reason.
Right. Yeah, that's really such a great message because as a mom, I mean, you have two sons who 14 and 17, correct?
Yep.
Oh my
Yep.
gosh. Yeah.
Yep.
As a mom and as a business owner, we do have a tendency to put ourselves last. So I love that you're very intentional about including yourself in that list.
I've
So
lived long enough to know that if I don't, life is not
Right.
good for anybody. Not just
Yes.
me. Mama
That's so true.
becomes a monster if I
Mhm.
don't.
Right, and that's so true, and this is funny, this discussion wasn't exactly the
I
direction,
know.
that we started off, but I think it's very important because it's really taking I turned 50 in April, and it has really taken me until now to realize that.
Yes. Well, first off, woohoo, welcome to adulthood.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
I'm only a couple years ahead of you, but still, I'm going to be 53 this year. So yeah, it's really crazy when we just look back and go, "Oh my gosh, that just happened.
Mhm.
What? And
Yeah.
I missed it?"
Right. You are actually involved in a lot of things. You have your podcast, you have parentpower.com, you have beautytechtools.com, and those are your two main websites. And then you also have your own site, marykatherine.johnson.com. And of course, I will have links to all of these in the show notes. But I would love to go back to when this all started, when that moment that you had, or moments, I guess it was kind of a series of events that had you really realizing basically what it was you wanted to be when you grew up.
Yes, yes. And like many of us, we, especially as moms or dads, we get ourselves, raising kids, being a spouse or a significant other, working at a job, or doing all these roles that we have to fulfill, and we just lose track of anything else because we wake up first thing in the morning, our feet hit the floor, and it's like, what do we got to do first? And we start that craziness right from the beginning. And I was totally invested in that life. Just all right there. Wake up in the morning. It was actually before I had my first son. So it was, almost coming on to 18 years ago now, when I was climbing the corporate ladder, getting up every day, working 60 hours a week, 80 hours a week. It was just my husband and myself. And I was it was about 30 weeks into my pregnancy, and I hit early labor. And so I was hospitalized for a week to stop the labor and on drugs and totally out of it. And then after that, put on bed rest. So I'm going from, workaholic type A to bed rest. And I don't know if anyone else is, I'm sure many people have had that, many women especially have had that, and it was really a shock. I wasn't, that's not me. So that was my first wake up call. But of course I didn't wake up, unfortunately. But in that process, even before that, just to even get pregnant with my son, that was what gave me the idea for my first business, because I come from a family of women who, all of them, every single woman in my family had gotten pregnant in their teens before the age of 20, whether it was intentionally or not.
Right.
And I was the first one to not do that. I decided not to have kids until we were married very young. So I decided not to have kids until I was about 35. So we'd already been married 15 years before we decided to have kids. I got married young, but I didn't have kids. So with that, it took us a year to get pregnant. And here again, no one in my family, you just think about getting pregnant and boom, you're there. So, I'm thinking, what the heck is wrong with me? So, it took us a year to get pregnant. I finally got pregnant, and then I had a miscarriage at about 8 weeks. And then it took us another year to get pregnant, and I had another miscarriage almost to the day of the first one. And then I was finally pregnant with my first son about 2 months later. So I thought, this was the toughest class I have ever taken in college.
Right.
And I finally passed it. So I don't know where I got the idea. I just got the idea to go to my little Windows 98 PC. Yes, I'm dating myself. And I typed out on Excel, I created like a report card. And it was a fall semester report card. It said Pregnancy 101. I got an A+. Pregnancy prevention, I finally failed.
Right.
And I brought that printout and a blank white shirt from Target down to a local sports shop and said, "Can you put this on this?" And they said, "Sure." And I wore that shirt around. And Liz, it was the whole proverbial being stopped in the airport time.
Right.
Oh my gosh, where did you get that? Oh my gosh. And the light bulbs were going off like crazy, going, oh my gosh, because nobody wanted to make it. I started to tell them, well, this is how I made it. So you can go make it. They're like, what? I want to buy it. And I'm like,
right.
Ding, ding, ding. Oh my gosh, you're kidding. What? You want to buy it? So I had this amazing idea, started coming up with all kinds of ideas. And then boom, I'm in early labor on drugs. And then I have a baby. And life of course, we get into that role. So 3 years later, second pregnancy, I pull out that shirt and all those things happen again. And all that stuff comes back. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, I've got to do something about this. And because I didn't have that first wake up call, I went right back into the crazy life. I went right back into working like crazy and doing all these things. And luckily, my husband stayed home and took care of our son. But then the second one came along. I was working, I was doing everything, and took out this amazing shirt and got this amazing response and started to get back into that head again of creativity and thinking, wow, I could really do something with this. And then the second wake up call, I stepped out my neighbor's front door. My 3-year-old and I were there for a swim date, and I was 8 months pregnant. And I proceeded to step wrong and fall down her front porch at 8 months pregnant, and I landed with 2 broken legs.
Oh my goodness. Both
legs in a cast up to the knee. One was pink and the other was blue because we didn't know what we were having. So at least I had a little bit of sense of humor.
Yeah.
But I mean, I was, it wasn't bedridden anymore. It was, you're not moving.
Right.
You can't even get up to go to the bathroom without assistance.
My goodness.
So that was my second wake up call. And it basically, this one, I went into a depression because, of course, here again, type A, I am used to being in control. And now I can't even wash my own hair. Right? I can't even take a shower. I can't even take a bath. I can't even stand long enough to make a meal for my 3-year-old. Okay. So it was just beyond anything I could have imagined. And I was depressed and feeling, how can I do this? And finally, my son looked at me and asked me if he could play Legos with me. And I just melted. Actually, it was my husband who said, can you play Legos with my son, with Evan? And I basically went off on him like, what? How can you expect me to do that? Look at me. I'm sitting here. And I just And my
Right.
son's looking at me with the big, huge blue eyes and little
Oh,
puddles. And I'm like, oh my God, who have I become? And
right.
that was basically, all right, you gotta get out of this, woman, or you're gonna end up this way. You're gonna stick this way, you know?
Hmm.
And that's when I started realizing that this might be a blessing in disguise. And it led me to 18 months later starting my first business based on that wonderful little report card shirt that was called Mommy Loves. And it was the novelty maternity company making novelty maternity shirts. And true to my wonderful type A, I did everything, right?
Right.
Everything. I did the website, I did the credit card processing, I did the designing, I printed the designs to put on the shirts, and I printed the shirts, and I did the receipts, and I packaged them up, and I drove them to the post office. And oh yeah, nuts. I don't do that
Yeah.
anymore.
Right.
Business is still going and still making shirts, but I have someone else doing that for me. But yeah, so that's my aha moment was finally like, you know what? If I can get through this with my sense of humor intact, I
Mhm.
can do anything. And it
Yes.
was that realization of the confidence really was all I needed. I could do it all along, but I didn't know I could do it until I woke up after those two situations and woke up to the fact that I can. And,
Right.
now I've got all the other stuff you mentioned.
I have goosebumps because I'm just thinking how often we get, we just kind of get knocked down in life sometimes. Obviously, you were like, you really got knocked down, but
I fell down, baby. Fell
yes,
down.
you fell down.
Yeah.
And just the strength that it takes to I want to say the strength that it takes to get back up, but I really think there is a need and a time, though it doesn't feel like it at the moment, but to kind of hit that rock bottom sometimes.
It is because you don't really appreciate just like we started this conversation. You really don't appreciate waking up and facing the messiness until you've probably had someone who hasn't.
Hmm.
And you've actually faced that and accepted it and realized the blessings of life that you really have all around you, even in the tough times. I mean, I had a 3-year-old, a beautiful 3-year-old who just loved me unconditionally, a husband who was there to actually pick up the slack while I was sitting, healing these
Right,
broken legs and baking a baby, right? I mean, he
right,
was able
right.
to do the grocery shopping and the cooking, and I was absolutely blessed. This was
Hmm.
a temporary situation. I was not permanently disabled, right?
Right, right.
This is a temporary situation. So, woman, get off your butt and deal with it.
Yeah,
And so I had to
yeah.
hit that and realize that and go quit feeling sorry for yourself and figure this thing out. So, you know what I did, Liz? I had my office chair that had wheels. Oh my gosh. I wheeled myself everywhere around the house, right? At first, I was just
Yeah,
walking around with a walker, that those things that little old ladies use. That's the
yeah,
only way I could
yeah.
get around because I had a walking cast on one leg. I could put pressure on one foot, but the other one I could not because the bone that was broken was my ankle. So,
Mm.
I could get around, but it was very difficult to hop. Think about it. You're 8 months pregnant. How do you get to the
Sure.
bathroom fast enough?
Oh my
Yeah,
gosh.
you're gonna have the
Yeah.
floodgates open and everything's gonna be
Right.
wet, right? You want the first hop of that
Yeah.
walker, forget it. So, I had to have a bedside commode. I didn't even know what the heck a bedside commode was
Mm,
until then. But then I
yeah.
figured out, I've got an office chair. I can just wheel myself everywhere instead of a whole big huge wheelchair with the arms and stuff. I don't
Right.
have a huge, expansive house. I've got a house with a little hallway. How am I going to get that? It would destroy my walls, with the
Right.
foot thing sticking out and all that stuff. So forget that. I just got my office chair, wheel myself everywhere around. If I needed to stand, so you figure things out. You just do it.
Right.
I did a sponge bath every morning. My husband and son would take me out into our patio. We live in Northern California. So we usually get like Indian summers and they would wash my hair. My little boy fingers just
Aw.
scrubbing my hair. And then of course my husband looking at me and scrubbing my hair. Oh my gosh, it was such an amazing experience. It was
Yeah.
so wonderful, really. And that was
Right.
the highlight of my week. I looked
Mhm.
because he did that once a week and it was the highlight. It was so amazing. So
Yeah.
you appreciate those little things. You appreciate being able to get up and walk to the bathroom anytime you want,
Right.
right? I mean,
Right.
and I got to tell you, Liz, I lost weight in the last month of my pregnancy because I couldn't get myself up and go graze through my, right?
Yeah,
I couldn't do
right.
that, and really asking my husband to do it for me was just sad. So
Mhm.
I lost weight, I mean, so hey, blessings everywhere.
Little blessings, that's right, that's right. So, and it really sounds like you took that opportunity of, "Come on, woman," which is funny because I call myself woman too, so it's pretty funny, but you just took that and bolstered yourself up, kind of picked yourself up by the bootstraps, as we say here in Texas, and
Yeah,
just,
we say that in California too.
okay. And it makes me wonder if you hadn't have had these little series of events, like where would you be right now? Would you be working in corporate? What do you think would have
I
happened?
don't know. I'm sure I would be. I'm sure I would be climbing some ladder, and I'm sure I would be not happy. Um,
Right.
I'm sure, because even in the times of the business has been bad, like 2008 and 9, because this was 2003 that I started Mommy Loves. So I went through all of that with a retail business, and retail was very, very hard hit. So even when business was bad and I've thought about going back and getting a job, my gut just
Mhm.
twists. So I'm sure I would be doing that. Or I don't know. To be honest, I don't know. Every single thing, even I've had not the best life, okay? I mean, my youth, my childhood. So, we've had
Right.
many difficulties and people in my life that were not very nice people, and situations I was placed in that no, 6-year-old should be placed into.
Mhm.
But I never, ever, I look back on that now at 53, and I never, ever say, I wish that didn't happen, because it has
Right.
made me who I am.
Mhm.
So if it didn't happen, I wouldn't be this person. I would be a different person. I would have
Right.
taken a different path. So everything, being able to appreciate the things I can appreciate, being able to raise my sons very differently than I was raised,
Mhm.
was a conscious choice because of the way I was raised, because of the things I
Yes.
went through. So I wouldn't have that. I would probably be repeating those things if I didn't
Right.
come to that realization and wait that time that I waited and allow myself to grow and distance myself from those situations. But it still made me who I am. So I don't know. I have no idea who I would be, but
Yeah.
I would hope that I would be the same person, but I don't know.
I have a feeling you would be.
Yeah, I think I
I
am
do.
who I am, baby.
Yep. So tell me, what was the next step when you went from Mommy Loves to, is that when
Yeah.
you became Parent Power, or
Yeah, the next one.
yeah?
No, there was actually one failed one in between there,
Mhm.
that I wish I could have made work, but just wasn't working for me. This was Mommy Loves in 2008, and I automated everything after that happened. So I stopped doing it all myself and having inventory here, and because I had my spare room and it was basically a sweatshop. So
Right.
I just streamlined everything and automated everything. And now I have someone else doing that for me, making the shirts. I do the fun stuff, the designs, I blog, and, all that stuff.
Mhm.
But someone else does the work. And so that freed me up to go, okay, well, what do I do now? I mean, I can't just sit here and be a mom.
Right.
How can I do
Yeah.
that? That's
Yeah.
crazy. I've got to be a crazy person, right? So,
Right.
so I started actually one that failed, and it was called "Help Me Self Publish." So, because I wrote a book about that whole two broken legs while 8 months
Oh,
pregnant,
okay.
so that of course got my next idea, which is helping people publish their books, self-publish, because I
Mhm.
self-published my book. And that, I was doing the editing and I was doing the formatting. I didn't want to sit behind my computer formatting people's books all day. That
Right.
just was not. It morphed into something different than I had imagined. So I shut that one down. And then
Mhm.
again, most of the people were coming to me, and instead of having me format their books, they were asking me to help them start businesses. And you know how it goes. People start
Right.
asking you for things. That's what you better do.
Yep. Yeah.
So that's when it's Parent Entrepreneur Power. And it's, you can either do parententrepreneur.power.com, but entrepreneur has a difficulty for people to spell a lot of times,
Mhm.
or Parent E Power with the E in there.
Well, Parent E-Power, I am so
That's
sorry.
okay.
I'll make
That's okay. You can find
I
it.
will.
Just put in parent and entrepreneur and power, or parent and
Mhm.
power, and you'll find it. It's been there
Gotcha.
for, 2.5 years now.
Okay.
But then, so I follow a lot of people online, and I started listening to podcasts. And Pat Flynn of Smart Passive Income was the absolute first person I listened to. And I really wanted to do a podcast. And I started thinking about it from the Mommy Loves perspective and helping people with, maternity and all that stuff. But my kids by this time, we're talking 10. So
Right.
I'm past that. And I just
Right.
couldn't get myself into that mindset anymore because it wasn't there. So I thought, but what people are asking me to help them with is when they have kids, how do they start businesses? So I thought, oh, there we go. We already,
Hmm.
and I realized something as I started writing about it and starting a blog about it and just in exploring this idea. I realized that we parents already have the power to start a business because of everything we've had to navigate as parents. We have to navigate. So your newborn is just like the startup phase. It's exactly the same thing.
Right.
You are absolutely obsessed with this thing. You can't sleep at night. It
Right.
takes over your finances. It takes over your life. You just are absorbed. You talk to everybody about it. They get sick of you talking about it, right? I mean, it's
Right.
exactly like your
Hmm.
newborn. Same thing.
So true.
And every single stage after that is the same. You go through the same stage in parenting
Mm.
as you do in business. And as I am finding out now, all the way up
Right.
to an exit strategy.
Yeah.
All the way up to that. You have to plan for your kids to leave your home and get yourself ready for that and set things up for that ahead of
Mhm.
time, not just right when they walk out the door. Right?
Right. Right.
You had to do the same thing
Yeah.
in your business. It's really, toddler potty training is just like that growth spurt you have in your business where you just like, oh my gosh, huge number of sales one day and then boom, you fall back on your
Right.
and then you're like, where did everybody go? Right? It's the
Exactly.
same thing as your
Right.
toddler having huge leaps in growth and then they go back to sucking their thumb.
Hmm.
And you've got to try and figure that out and deal with it. The same
Right.
exact stages and the same exact skills are required. And so that's when I went, ta-da, that's it. That is the whole idea because people don't realize that. We parents don't realize the power we've had. If you've gotten a kid through potty training, you've got this business thing. Business is nothing like potty training.
Oh, that's so true.
Yes. You can do it. And so that's really what most people needed from me when I was talking to them was that same thing I found by breaking my legs, that confidence. You can do this. You've already done the parenting thing. Even if you've only have a 2-year-old or a 1-year-old, look what you got through, a year of sleeplessness,
Exactly.
right? You can handle
Yeah.
business.
Right.
And that's when the podcast was born. And we're on 100 and I think I'm coming up to 130 episodes because it's only once a week. And I've interviewed some incredible people that have shared some amazing tools, not just confidence building tools, but actual tools of making money in business. So that's kind of how it morphed into it. And now it's a whole business of helping parents do the same thing.
Amazing, amazing. I'm just smiling because it's so true. I had never put that together, and now that I'm looking at my business and the way things have, kind of changed and gone different directions and, continue to grow and it's just I don't know, I'm laughing inside because I now see that correlation and
Every single person, Liz, every single person I
mhm.
interview has the exact same realization
Right.
because we don't realize it. Just like me and the whole thing of my whole wake up calls that I didn't see. We don't realize
Mhm.
what we're in until someone from the outside shows us. And so now now your challenge, if you choose to accept
Mhm.
it, is
Yeah.
to take the next stage of your business and equate it to the next stage you went on in parenting and what you needed to be successful at that stage in parenting that you can now apply to your business to make it a little easier and faster. That's
Mhm.
what we really talk about is okay. Now, if you haven't, now it's difficult for some parents who haven't gone as far as you and I have, to see that, and so that
Sure.
I can help with that by sharing the different stages that are upcoming and some of the skills and things that you need to put into practice to make it easier. So just like your first kid that went through, becoming a teenager, you can handle it a little easier with your second, even though they're
Right.
totally, it's just like your businesses too. Your kids are just like your businesses. If you have a different business, it's totally different.
Totally different.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
So it's
So
going to go through
true.
the same phase, but uniquely, in its own
Mhm.
unique way. But at least there are some fundamental paths that we can take that are, basic structural, and procedural and focus and productivity. All those things are pretty much the same no matter what business you have. So you can take some of the things that you've used in your previous experiences as parents and apply them to the business. So that's your next challenge. So now look at the next phase and what you got to do.
I'm just going down this path of how, because I have different businesses as well, so how each of them has their own personality. It is so much like having different children and how you have to handle them and prop them up. And
Yes.
so
Yes. They have different friends, and that'll be just like our different customers, right? And
exactly.
it's just crazy. Once you start realizing this, you just go down this path and your mind is just blown.
Right. So I know that you were actually, I think we talked about this, how you were 40 when you started, well, when you were going into business for yourself.
Yes.
And when we were talking and when I had mentioned about being a guest on the podcast, and I mentioned, well, readers are not my readers because we're a podcast, my listeners, well, they're readers too. But my listeners are over the age of 40, and you had mentioned how you never put it together of what a milestone that was to, start your businesses.
Yes. And I have you to thank for that. Thank you.
Oh, well, it is a big thing. I mean, I'm glad that actually you were able to see that and celebrate that. I'm wondering, do you feel there was an advantage to being in your 40s as you got these businesses up and going?
Absolutely. Only because I learned from the wake up calls I was getting and the all the experiences I've had in the past, just like we just talked about. Because I was open to learning, and growing myself as a human being, as a woman, as a mother, all those roles that we play, but really internally, me, just myself. I was willing to learn from all those situations, and with that learning, I could then apply it so much more effectively. However, Liz, I look at myself sometimes and I just go, come on, why didn't you see that? Right? I mean, there's always going to be something that slaps us that we don't realize. And it's usually based in either a fear, or a confidence, lack of confidence or something that basically pulls us back. So yes, my answer would be absolutely it helped being over 40, being actually turning 40 the same year that I started Mommy Loves. It was a gift. It really was a benefit. But even beyond that, in the 13 years since, I have grown exponentially because of it. And I think the reason is because of the people I've been exposed to. There are a couple of books. Do you want me to talk about a couple of these books now?
Please do.
Okay, 2 books recently that I've read that I would highly recommend if anyone is in the frame where they're ready to basically level up, okay? Really take it to the next level. The first one I read, and I read these 2 in this sequence. The first one was, it's called The Big Leap by Gay Hendricks. Have you read that?
Yes, I have.
Amazing. Really find your zone of genius. Not just live in where you're good, but really go beyond it. So that was the first one, and that was way eye-opening. And I think I just recently discovered my real superpower, if you will. I mean, what I do really well. And then the second book is one I just recently got, and I'm not even done with, but I am blown away by this book. It's called The Code of the Extraordinary Mind. And it's by Vishen Lakhiani. And his company is Mind Valley. You might know him from that, or you might not. But this book, those 2 together, I read them in succession. Started with The Big Leap probably about a month and a half ago, 2 months ago, actually. And I'm about halfway through The Code of the Extraordinary Mind. And that is just setting my life and my business on fire. And the reason is because I said that I really broke through when I broke my legs and just said, you can do this. And so that was a huge confidence builder. But these 2 books and all the interviews that I've done, it's taken 130 of them now, right? But they've helped peel away so much of the fear that really, that had just been layers of protection for me. I'm more in touch with who I am, and I'm able to say no. That's really it. That's what it comes down to, is being able to say it's the art of saying no. And
Right.
realizing that finite time that I woke up having today, really, I have to say no to a lot of things to really pinpoint the things that not only I'm really good at and enjoy, but can do the most good for the most people.
Mm, yeah.
And that's it. I would highly recommend those two books. They're amazing.
Right. The Big Leap is one that I actually read that probably, gosh, I think when it first came out,
Yeah,
because it's
it's
been out
about
for a
a while.
while.
Yeah, I think it's early, like 2006 or 3 or
Mhm.
some 7, something. I don't remember, but
Right, right. So I know that I read it. I've read it twice, and it meant so much more just reading it again. Really, I recommend it, even if you're not wanting to start a
oh
business.
yeah,
I don't feel like it's
no,
necessarily just a business book.
no, not at all.
And especially when you do start talking about fear, because fear has so much power over us. And it's one of my favorite things to work with my clients is just the myth that you have to be fearless. It's a myth that, okay, one day I'm going to wake up and not have the fear, and then I'm going to be able to do these great things that I want to do. Really working with my clients to see that, it's okay to have that fear, but it's also okay to do it anyway, you know.
Yeah, you actually need it to a certain extent, and you can
Mhm.
train yourself to respond to it in a different way. So there was again another one of these eye-opening experiences when one of the people I interviewed, and I'm sorry I don't remember his name right now, but I can see his face. But he's a pilot, and
Mm.
Ryerson. Ryerson is his last name, and so he's a pilot, and we started talking about fear, and it all of a sudden popped into my head an experience I had when I was going to college. I used to be a wrangler on a ranch. So I would
Mhm.
round up cattle and sheep, and we would vaccinate them and shear the sheep. And I would also take out horseback rides, because this was in a tourist area. It was in the coast of California. So people would come and
Mhm.
ride horses on the beach, and I would lead them. I would be their guide on the beach. And so one time I was taking a horseback ride up in the hills behind, not on the beach, but in the hills behind the ranch. And I had just two kids with me, and I think they were like 9 and 11. So they were little kids, and I didn't have kids. I was in my early 20s. So
Right.
I was just talking to them. I was kind of spending most of my time looking backwards on my horse and just let the horse follow the trail. And because
Mhm.
we were chatting with these kids, and all of a sudden I kept hearing these popping sounds, and then I would hear this pew, 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 pew.
Oh, no.
And I'm like, what is that? And the horse is starting to freak out.
Right.
And I realized they're gunshots,
Oh my
and there are
gosh.
bullets whizzing by my head. And I just started screaming, yelling, "We're here, stop," because it was a foggy day.
Mhm.
"We're here, stop," screaming. And they stopped. And so the kids are like, "What's going on?" And we get
Right.
closer, and there's two guys practice shooting into the fog.
Oh my gosh.
And I mean, seriously, it's one of those times when I don't know how close those bullets were, but it sounded just like it sounds on TV when you hear that
Mhm.
pew pew pew. Pew. It
Right.
sounded just like that. After the pops, it
Mm.
would pop, and then it was just freaky. So I just stayed calm, and I told the guys, "Hello, can you stop? You're shooting toward our ranch. You need to not."
Yeah.
And stayed
Right.
calm with the kids, and and we got back, and it was one of those out of body experiences where I didn't really realize what the situation was, the potential of what could have happened, until I got back to the ranch, got the horses done, the kids off to the parents, everything was fine, unsaddled, brushed, ready, put away, went and sat down and got a cup of coffee and started shaking like a leaf.
Oh, yeah.
And the guys are like, "What's going on?" The owners of the ranch, "What happened?" And I went, "Well, yeah, we were shot at." And that set on a
Mhm.
whole series of events, to stop those guys.
Right.
But, you look at that and say, "Yeah, I had fear, but I had to go outside of me and my fear, because I had two
Mhm.
kids to take care of."
Sure.
And so that's kind of what I look at in fear now. I look at that and go, "It's not about you. You are not
Mhm.
immediately in danger. There's nobody's losing their life. All right. This is a fear
Right.
you can handle because you have commitments to this, that, and that.
Mhm.
So yep, it's scary, but you're going to do it because of these other people. And I try and make myself go outside of myself. Because if I stay in my own head, I'll
Right.
stay with that fear, man. I'll just let it
Exactly.
paralyze me. But I have to look outside. And that when I chatted with that guy, because he talked about a situation where he had an emergency on a plane and had to land, and he had all the lives of all the people there. So that made me realize that's right. I was because I could handle the kids. I had to take care of the kids that I could handle that. So that's kind of how I get through it. I look beyond myself, and then I still feel the fear, but I can deal with it.
Right. Just as a side note, I think that we often think that fear comes up like that. That experience that you had where you were physically shaking and where your life was in danger, like if you talk about fear to people, they can automatically understand that.
right.
But oftentimes, especially when we're starting off on a new venture, fear is not like that.
Nope.
Fear comes up like the inner critic telling you, who do you think you are? You have no business doing this,
Right.
Or fear can show up and you find yourself procrastinating, or there's just fascinating ways.
Yes.
Fear is a sneaky little devil. He just kind of shows up and
Yes, and you can handle it the same way. You can, as long as you're able to recognize it. So it sounds like that's the
Exactly.
amazing gift that you give to your clients, is to help them recognize that procrastination is fear, because it is. And I find myself still doing that sometimes when I'm when I'm faced with something and writing a post for, a new publication that I'm going to be published in, or talking to someone. I got to interview Cliff Ravenscraft, and I have been trying to get that guy on my podcast for like 2 years. Okay. He's a podcast guru, right? So I'm looking at that going, oh crap. I'm going to talk to Cliff. Oh my goodness. And instead of preparing, I was finding myself going into the kitchen going, let's see what's in here to just munch.
Right.
And I'm like, okay, stop, Mary. Whoa, that's just you being afraid of facing whatever you're going to do. But you got to look at it like it's fun. And I did my own thing, right, of how you have to recognize it. So kudos to you for helping people recognize that is fear. And it still gives us the same feelings in our gut, but we manifest it differently, like going and eating something or posting, let's check Facebook.
Yeah, that's a big one these days.
Yeah.
Well, I love just learning that after 13 years, you still experience fear.
Absolutely. The day I don't, sweetheart, is the day I'm dead.
Yes.
Because this is human. It's human.
It is a human. Yeah.
And you're always going to be leveling up to the next level. You're always going to be experiencing something new. And every time you do, all those same old fears are going to come up automatically because they're ingrained in us for a reason. We use them as adaptation tools sometime in our lives, and they served us well. So they're going to come up again. It's just you get closer and closer and closer to, you never lose them completely. You just get closer and closer to recognizing them and getting rid of them faster. That's all.
Yeah.
Recognizing them and getting past them, getting through them, acknowledging. And I actually look at it. It's kind of funny. I look at it as an old friend. And I say, thank you. I really appreciate. I actually go through this exercise in my mind. Thank you. I really appreciate you being there because you've served me well in the past. I really appreciate it. Yes, I am afraid, and there's a reason you're there. And thank you for being there. And I'll save you for a time I really need you. But right now, I need you to go sit in the corner.
Right.
Go sit in the corner and read a book. Right now, I don't need you.
Yes. That's so reminiscent of Elizabeth Gilbert's Big Magic. Yes.
I love that. Yes.
That's
screaming when I read that.
Yeah, I know.
Hallelujah.
I love when she said about how fear can ride in the car with her, but
can't drive.
Has to be can't drive in the back seat, and you can't touch the radio.
That's right. Oh, I love.
Yeah,
she is so amazing. Yes, it's wonderful.
Definitely.
That's another just amazing book. Yes.
Yes. In this journey, this 13-year journey that you've had of being an entrepreneur and an author, is there anything that you wish you would have done differently?
Yes, there's only one thing. And that was when I had Mommy Loves and the whole 2008 and the, implosion of our economy. The number one thing I wish I would have done was divested myself from my identity being that business sooner. Because basically here's the fear again, here's all the things we've been talking about, but my identity was basically wrapped up in that business. It wasn't just my business, it was who I am. And I wish I would have recognized that earlier. I don't wish I didn't have it, because if I didn't have it, I wouldn't be able to recognize it and not do it again.
Right.
Because so many of us, it wraps up so much in our egos and so much in our identity. And this was a very good lesson for me to prepare me for my exit strategy with my kids. Because if my identity is mom, then how can they have a life without me? What am I going to do when they go? What's my identity going to be then? And so it's the same. I learned that with that business, but yes, the only thing I wish I would have done was learn it faster, because I got into amazing amounts of debt trying to just keep that business and hang on to what I was doing, and having a reason to have my spare room as this sweatshop, and, having an identity in this business. And I got into huge amounts of debt that we had to try and get out of afterwards, and finally did. But it would have been so much healthier, so much easier if I had recognized that sooner. So that's really the only thing I would do differently, is recognizing it sooner, not having it, but just recognizing it sooner. Because we're talking from, I don't think I finally recognized that and let go of it until like 2010. So we're talking a good couple of years of struggling and hanging on and waking up every morning with a pit in my stomach that just grew throughout the day because I didn't have enough clients or customers to pay the bills, and the credit cards were going up, but I couldn't let go of it. And how can all of that.
Yeah.
I just wish I would have recognized it earlier and cut the ties and changed and made the changes that I made earlier.
That is such a great, I'm sorry that before I glaze right past that, I'm sorry that you experienced that. That is, though, such a great metaphor, I feel, for this time in our lives.
Yes.
With the changes that happen, where we are often holding on to this old identity of, maybe it's even just a picture we have of ourselves in our, quote, younger years. And then our children are growing, or our businesses are growing, or, like you said about this transition and then like letting go. I actually had goosebumps as you were explaining that, because I know that for me, when my oldest graduated high school and was going off to college, I had a very hard time. And I don't want to say it got easier with the other two.
No.
It didn't. It was not easier, but I was at least a little better prepared. And who was I if I wasn't their mother? Just like you said, I hadn't prepared that. My identity was wrapped up in being their mom. So.
Right. And it's so hard. It really, and you're right, it's not easy. My first is, like we said, just now at his college orientation today. And of course, one of the options, they specifically said, you can bring your parent and go through it with you. And so we had a good discussion about, well, do you want me to go with you? Do you want me or dad to go with you and help you through this? And he counsel him to go on his own, even though we're there. And yes, I'll go with you. And if you need me to, but it was he really needed to do this on his own. And and so that was hard too, because I don't want him to experience things and have difficulties, and I don't want that to happen. But I also know it has to. Right. And that's the only way it can, is through the uncomfortable feelings, is the only way you grow. It's the only way you learn. So I'm really thankful. That's why I say I don't wish I didn't happen, but I just wish I'd have recognized it sooner and I wouldn't have gotten in so much debt. But it really has helped me now to become now someone other than a mom. That's why you have in my you introduced me as an author, an entrepreneur, a mom. I got puppies. I'm doing all these things. It's not just one thing. My life is not just one thing, and I don't identify with only one. I'm Mary. I'm a woman. I love travel. I love this and that. I play my cello. You have to have all those facets, because when you focus on one is when you're really going to get in trouble, because that one thing can go away. Right. And then who are you?
Exactly. Well, big hugs to you, because you. I do remember the college orientation, and it's like, we talked about it. Lots of emotion wrapped up in that.
Yeah. So. And I'm really glad that I'm being able to basically deflect it by talking to you right now. So
awesome.
I get to, make my mind think about something else.
What would you say has been the biggest surprise in you becoming an entrepreneur and this journey? It's like I can't even pinpoint just one thing because you are just all of these things together. But over the last 13 years, what would you say the biggest surprise has been?
Probably what has surprised me the most, and it still surprises me, which brings me back to the growth that I keep having. The biggest surprise has been that I can do this, that I have some really incredible tools to help people grow in all different areas. And every time someone comes to me and says, "Wow, that was amazing. That helped me so much," I'm surprised. Every single one of us has the power to touch another person quite deeply. If we look in ourselves and find our story and realize what we're here to do is the impact each human being on this planet can have. And my personal impact, I'm surprised every time it's shown to me, and pleasantly surprised.
I think people forget that. I think I think it's easy in this day and age to kind of go through the motions and, you get up, you go to work, you drudge through that, you pay your bills, you come,
Yeah.
you come home.
Yeah.
Go to bed,
Yeah.
restart, and we forget how much positive power and that we can really touch other people.
And I will say this to every person listening to our voices,
Mhm.
if you find yourself getting up and saying, "Oh, here we go again, another day. All right, here's what I'm going to do," and feeling that and saying that 5 days in a row,
Mhm.
that fifth day you wake up, you better splash some cold water on your face, woman, and wake up and go, no, I've got to do something different today. Because you get
Yes.
yourself in that rut, and it's easy to stay there.
Yes.
The longer you're there, the easier it is to stay there.
It sure
The
is.
sooner you can break that and go, even if you just get up and you turn on some music and dance before you get in the shower, it's something different. Do it.
Yeah.
Because that will start some creative juices and you'll get into our wonderful little, book that we just talked about with Liz Gilbert, right?
Right.
You have to change something. If you get 5 days into that and you're waking up every day going, and you have the same exact routine going, you got to do something to stop it because life is too short to stay in that and not experience
kidding.
and learn something new. So yeah.
Yeah.
No ruts.
Well,
No ruts allowed.
No ruts. That should be your next shirt.
There you go. And it'll have, yeah, okay. All right.
Well, that was great because you just answered my question, which was, what advice would you give someone? And so
right.
that was awesome. You
Turn
just
on the
read my
music and dance, if nothing else.
right. Yeah, I love that.
In
I
the
love
kitchen
that
making
advice.
dinner, turn on the music and dance instead of watching the
Yes.
depressing news. Okay? Don't do that,
Okay.
please. Yeah.
Yeah,
Dance instead, and your kids will love it.
that's true. And the dogs.
Oh, yeah. Oh, mine
Yeah.
barks and tries to hump my
Uh-huh.
leg.
Mine too.
Yeah, it's crazy. He was neutered. What are you doing? Stop
I
it.
don't know. I
I
don't
think
know.
they
They don't
left
know.
in there.
That's another podcast
Yeah,
interview.
right.
Do you have anything planned on the horizon that you'd like to share with the midlife schmidlife audience?
Midlife, schmidlife. Let's get, I think it pretty much ties right into what we were just talking
Yeah,
about. This is
it's a
life.
great segue.
You've been doing a really good job, Liz, I've got to say, of really helping me tie in the last, 20 years of my life that has led me to where I am right now. And it really is all culminating in the same thing. So yes, in answer to your question, I do. I really have found that the people that I consult with and the courses that people take from me are all around getting out of the craziness, not just the rut that we just talked about, but the crazy rut, right? The waking up and your feet hit the floor and you've already been going nuts. So that's really what I work on, and I help people get rid of that craziness. But the fun part about it is I help people find their craziness score. So it's what level on the craziness scale are you really at? And being
Right.
able to assess that score and then get the tools and the specific actions to change that, because most of us want to change it. If you wake up every morning and the birds are singing and you meditate and you have time for exercise and you make time for a healthy, balanced meal and your kids relaxed get to school and you come home, they come home and everyone has their wonderful day and no one is frantically running to basketball or dance or anything like that. And at night you come in and you just do another meditation and you have your day planned for tomorrow, your life is not crazy
Right.
like mine.
I was gonna say that sounds like a fairy
Wouldn't
tale.
that be wonderful? Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, if that's the majority of your life, this is not for you. But if for the rest
Right.
of us, where we are on varying levels of crazy each day, trying to handle all these roles that we've put on ourselves, because we do, right? They don't happen to us. We choose them.
Right.
That's what we do. And so you can go to the craziness again, get your craziness score. And I can give you a link for just your wonderful audience.
Yeah.
Then they can go to parententrepreneurssuccess.com/crazy score. And they can get their own craziness score and some free tools and free action steps to take to change that if they want to.
I love that. Thank you so much, Mary
You
Katherine.
are very
I may go take that myself.
I had to too.
Yeah.
It was better than I thought, but still
Right.
crazy. This is life.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and just as a note to that, final note is what I love is you have built your businesses and how you interact with people as well as your life around your own experiences. So you're bringing in the fullness of you into everything and sharing that with others. So
Thank you
we
for
really,
that. I've
oh,
worked many years to be okay with that, to be authentic and okay with the vulnerability that brings, because I have to share mistakes at the same time, right? So thank you. You are doing an amazing job of helping you realize lots of stuff, woman.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you. It helps having great guests, by the way, who just leave those doors wide open for you.
Yeah.
So, well, Mary Katherine, I thank you so much for joining me today, and I will have all the links, including the books that we talked about, in the show notes. And I just loved having you online, and it's been wonderful.
Thank you, Liz. I really, really appreciate it. I'm so glad we connected, and I can't wait to chat with you again.
I hope you were inspired by Mary Katherine's story. She had such wonderful words of wisdom to share and experiences that I think we all can learn from. One thing that really touched me from the very start about Mary Katherine was when she filled out the questionnaire about being on the Midlife Schmidlife podcast. I want to get a feel for who they are, what lights them up, what they stand for. Mary Katherine gave me such a beautiful introduction to herself. Not only did she say that she was a wife and a mom of boys and an entrepreneur, she also went into more detail as far as her loving travel, being an avid learner, loving music and playing the cello. I got a full perspective of Mary Katherine before we had even spoken on the phone. And that really got me thinking about how I introduce myself. What I am really exploring, and I would invite you to explore as well, is how do you define yourself? What is your identity? My identity came up very strongly for me when my oldest was graduating high school and going off to college. Who was I now that he was growing up and moving out on his own? Yes, I would always be his mom, but my identity was shifting and changing. He didn't need me as much. So where was I? Where was I in his life and where was I in my own life? This really was the beginning of what I call my unraveling. And yes, I know that sounds funny, and I can laugh at it now, but honestly, in 2010, it was not funny. It was something that really took me by surprise. In looking back on it, I think was a time when I was going through a type of depression, and it was putting a lot of strain on my marriage. It's easy for us to get caught in these identities and caught in this loop of us, how we identify ourselves and the roles that we play. But we need to remember that we are so much more, and we need to remember to bring those facets of ourself into our everyday life so that we can remember who we are, and that being a mom, being a dad, these are just pieces, and we have so much more to offer the world. So I would love to meet you. Head on over to the show notes at midlifeschmidlife.com, midlifeschmidlife.com/parent-e-success. And in the comments, introduce yourself. I would love to hear your full introduction so I can get to know you better. And until next week on Midlife Schmidlife, I hope that you are constantly looking for ways to bring yourself fully into the world and fully share yourself with others.
Thanks for joining Liz for the Midlife Schmidlife podcast. Remember, some days are never on your calendar until you put them there. Until next time.